I never expected my wealthy father's return would lead to a heartbreaking family reunion. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension, like a storm hovering just overhead. My heart raced as I stepped into the grand foyer of our family mansion, the echoes of my past reverberating off the polished marble floors. It felt suffocating. I hadn't seen him in years, me father, a shadowy figure painted with regret and riches. When he walked through the door, my world trembled. He looked older, more worn, but those piercing blue eyes, they were the same. They sparkled with a mix of affection and something darker, something that sent chills racing down my spine. I could feel his presence, heavy and electric, as I stood frozen. Mom had said he was coming back, but I never truly believed it. The memories of his absence clawed at my heart. Family dinners reduced to echoing silence, birthdays with one empty chair, a constant ache of longing. And then there was my little sister, Lily. Just 16, and already trapped in a battle between the girl she was and the one she needed to be. She rarely spoke of Dad, though her silence was thick with yearning. I often caught her staring out of her window, hoping for a return that felt somewhat like a fairy tale. But fairy tales didn't exist for daughters like us. The clock ticked irritatingly loud, pushing me forward as all eyes landed on my father. People gathered behind him, their expressions a strange mixture of confusion and curiosity. This wasn't just family. Friends and neighbors crowded the hall, whispering among themselves. The way they looked at him, like he was some kind of celebrity returning from exile. It made my stomach churn. I felt the weight of their stares, felt their judgments. Who were they to judge what he did or didn't do? How many times had I silently screamed into my pillow at night for a father who disappeared without a word? I leaned against the wall, desperately trying to steady my trembling hands, as my heart thudded painfully against my ribcage. "Dad," I finally managed to croak, my voice wavering like a candle flickering in the wind. The weight of the moment felt unbearable. He looked at me, and a flicker of recognition crossed his face, quickly replaced by something unreadable. Silence enveloped us like a suffocating blanket, and then it happened. As I took a tentative step toward him, Lily darted past me, her eyes blazing with a defiance I had never seen before. "You think you can just walk back in and act like everything's fine?" Her voice rose above the whispers, raw and unrestrained. The spectators gasped, and in that moment, I felt the entire room shift. What lay beneath that moment? What secrets were hidden in the deep creases of his smile? I wanted to know. How could a person can vanish for years and return like a ghost, haunting the lives he left behind? The atmosphere crackled with unspent energy, and I felt the knots tightening in my stomach. Was this the beginning of a reunion, or the end of our fragile peace? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension in the room hung thick and palpable, a precipice waiting for someone to push it over the edge. Lily's confrontation hung in the air, a firework shattering the stillness, and all eyes swiveled between her and our father. My heart raced, torn between a rush of pride for my sister's bravery and the pang of dread that simmered within me. "Lily, stop," I managed, my voice barely rising above the murmurs that fluttered around us like anxious birds. I took a step toward her, wanting to pull her back, to shield her from the fallout, but she stood her ground, head high, defiance radiating from her every pore. "Stop? Why should I? He abandoned us." Her words sliced through the confusion. "You think you can just show up, throw on that smug smile, and everything's supposed to be okay? You're delusional." Her raw anger felt potent. It struck me, reverberating with the years of silence, of isolation we'd endured in his absence. I wanted to reach out to her, to remind her that she didn't have to bear this burden alone, but I also feared the bitterness that would swallow her whole. Our father's expression twisted. Whatever affection his gaze had held was gone, replaced by a stormy temper. "You don't understand anything, Lily," he snapped. "You think this is easy for me." The room fell silent again, except for a few gasps and the sound of a glass shattering somewhere behind us. I pivoted, half expecting someone to rush to pick up the pieces, but it felt like the glass had shattered in my heart instead, the remnants of hope cutting deeper than any shard could. "Easy?" Lily echoed incredulously. "You left us. How could you think you get to come back now and play the victim?" Her breathing was ragged, but she stood her ground. I felt the weight of so many emotions pressing down on me, unshed tears threatening to burst forth. Behind that anger, I could see the vulnerability, the pain of a little girl who had hoped for so long, waiting for a dad that never came back. "Let's just calm down," I urged, stepping in front of Lily, hoping to shield her from his wrath. "We can talk about this." "We can talk?" Our father interjected, his voice a steely whisper, dripping with disdain. "Do you truly believe that's what this is about? I'm not looking for forgiveness." I sensed the churning inside me was mirrored in my sister, both of us battling a past we never chose. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, a soft voice cut through the tension. "Mr. Hawthorne," a neighbor named Mrs. Whitley said, stepping forward, her eyes filled with pity and confusion. "Maybe we should all take a step back and maybe—" My father's voice rose, drowning her out. "I don't need your judgment." He turned to her with raw anger, then swung back to face me and Lily, his gaze filled with a mix of desperation and defiance. In that moment, I saw something else: agony. A man grappling not just with the shadows of the past, but with a present that loomed larger than any of us could dismantle. Could he want us to understand, or was this a plea for his own solace? "Maybe what you need is to leave us alone," I said, my voice cracking under the pressure of the moment. "Maybe we've spent too long waiting for a father who vanished, and we're done with it." Each word felt like a knife, cutting deeper as I confronted the rawness of my own heart. I didn't want to pull Lily into this abyss, but I was already knee-deep in it, and so was she. As the murmurs began to grow louder, like the distant rumble of thunder across the sky, a small flicker of movement caught my eye. To my shock, a figure slipped through the Crodan, old man with a stooped back and grizzled hair, someone I hadn't seen in years. It was Mr. Sullivan, a neighbor who had always watched over us when Dad was gone. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice trembling as I met his gaze. He stepped closer, eyes glistening. "I came to help, because I think there's something you all need to know." My heart dropped, the fear swelling as he glanced toward my father, hesitation playing across his features. "Tell us what?" My voice trembled with a mixture of desperation and dread. Mr. Sullivan swallowed hard, stepping into the void left by the scattering crowd. "It's about your father, and why he really left." Every breath felt stolen as the room fell silent once more, the weight of his words hanging like a storm cloud, poised to unleash its fury. And I knew then that whatever he had to say could turn our fragile world into dust, or perhaps just illuminate the darkness that had shrouded our lives for so long. The air thickened with the unspoken promise of revelations that felt both terrifying and inevitable. Mr. Sullivan's voice trembled as he gathered the strength to continue, the crowd around us straining to listen with bated breath. "Before he left, he began carefully, there were things happening that you couldn't possibly understand, things I wish I'd taken the time to explain properly." My father's jaw clenched, and he looked away, as if privy to a secret that had begun to unravel. Lily stood beside me, her hands trembling, and I could sense the tumultuous waves of uncertainty washing over her. What could Mr. Sullivan possibly say that would justify all the years of hurt? Why did he leave, then? Lily's voice sliced through the oppressive silence, raw and demanding. "Was it because we weren't enough? No, dear, that's not it at all. Your father, he was never the villain in this story, though I know it seems that way. Mr. Sullivan's gaze shifted momentarily to my father, then back to us. There were threats beyond his control, challenges, that weighed heavily on him. Everything spiraled. He didn't choose to abandon you, he believed he was keeping you safe. Safe from what? I snapped, too angry to worry about the way my voice cracked under the weight of my emotions. He could have found another way. He just left us behind. And that is the truth. He thought he was doing the right thing, Mr. Sullivan said softly, his eyes reflecting an understanding that I didn't yet want to grasp. I watched your father struggle with tremendous burdens, pressures that would break most men. You both deserve to know that. A flicker of something unidentifiable passed across my father's face. Regret, anger, sorrow, but it was swiftly hidden, replaced by a mask of defiance. He was crumbling before us, and it felt as if the whole world was collapsing inward. Listen to me. Lily stood as tall as she could, her voice laced with a mingling of desperation and defiance. You claim we deserve to know the truth, but I feel like a fool for believing you can explain away years of silence and abandonment. Lily, I started, my heart ached for her. I could see the way she clutched her emotions tightly, fearful that sharing them would somehow make them all the more painful. Enough. Our father said, his voice sharp and edged. You don't get to dictate this conversation, not after you've brought all this chaos into my life. There was a sudden sharp intake of breath from the crowd, a collective realization dawning among our neighbors as they exchanged startled looks. It felt like watching glass break, beautiful and tragic all at once. You really are delusional if you think this is all about you, I shot back, stepping forward. The rage boiling inside me, fueled by years of pent-up disappointment, demanded release. You left, and then you made everyone else responsible for your absence. How is that okay? Yet, amidst the turmoil, something inside me stirred an echo of empathy that whispered of the man I wasn't sure I wanted to understand. My memories of Dad's laughter, his side of the stories he spun, wrestled with the overwhelming pain of abandonment. I'm not here to shift blame, he replied, his voice barely audible now, but it tremored with a depth of emotion I had never heard before. But you need to know the truth I fought to protect you from. There are people who wanted me gone, people who would have hurt you, hurt your mother. A murmur rippled through the still, stunned crowd. Their wide eyes watched us, hungry for answers, perhaps seeking clarity in their own quietly broken dreams. Are you saying there was a real threat? Lily asked, her tone softening just a fraction. The bitterness ebbing as her fierce gaze began to consider the possibility that there was more to this story. Yes, he admitted, running a hand through his high-ran indicator of vulnerability I had long thought lost. I was trying to shield you from dangers that I can barely talk about now. I thought that by walking away, I could keep you safe. In that moment, tenderness edged through the cracks in my heart, the chaos engulfed by the flicker of understanding. It wasn't a resolution, merely a crack in our travesty, but perhaps it was hope leaning in, a delicate breath against the hurricane of our lives. Mr. Sullivan's gaze darted between the three of us. You need to find a way to communicate, to understand each other's pain. Acknowledge the grief that binds you. But then, my phone rang. The jarring sound resonated through the charged atmosphere. I fished it out of my pocket, my heart ticking faster. The name on the screen sent icy tendrils of dread wrapping around me. It was Mom. Before I could answer, everything felt as if it was spiraling out of control, unresolved emotions, clashing histories, and the echo of a shrill ring splitting the tension. My finger hovered hesitantly over the screen, my gut tightened with an instinctual realization. She hadn't called in months. What was she about to reveal that would change everything once again? The crowd's murmur faded into a hushed stillness as I stared at the phone, the small screen glowing ominously in my palm. My heart raced, echoing the doubts that spiraled through my mind. What could my mother possibly want after all this time? After all we'd been through? Instinctively, I could feel the tension between my father, who had just begun to peel back layers of his enigmatic past, and Lily, who had bravely confronted him, grappling with her own anguish. It felt as though we were standing on the precipice of something profound, something transformative, and yet the intrusion of the phone felt like a cruel disruption. Answer it, Lyra. You can't ignore this, Mr. Sullivan urged gently, his eyes softening as if he knew the weight of that call. I needed to uncover whatever truth my mother was harboring. With a trembling finger, I swiped to answer, pressing the phone to my ear. The world around me began to blur. The crowd faded into a swirling sea of faces blurred by uncertainty, and my own family stood frozen, waiting for a revelation that might either bind us closer or rip us further apart. Hello? I finally managed, my voice wavering. There was a brief silence on the line, the anticipation causing a knot to form in my throat. Then came her voice, aged and weary, like an old song sung by someone who had lived too many lives. Lyra, she breathed, emotion catching in a ragged whisper. I need to talk to you. It's about your father. The floor seemed to drop away beneath me. My father's clenched fists and Lily's wide eyes reflected a shared shock. What about him? I stammered, my grip on the phone tightening. That he wasn't just running from danger, she continued, her voice trembling with a buried sorrow that clawed at my heart. He left because there were things he didn't want you to inherit. Shadows that belonged to his family, things tied to our lineage. I thought he was simply protecting you from the outside world, but it runs deeper than that. There are truths about who he is, about who we are. Mom, what do you mean? I interrupted, the sensation of foreboding creeping in. Tell me the truth. Are you saying there's more you haven't told me? Silence stretched painfully on the other end. Finally, she sighed, her breath heavy with the weight of unspoken fears. There's a reason he had to leave. A reason that connects to you, and to Lily. The wayward thread of tension in the air twisted tighter. My heart raced as I glanced at my sister, whose expression mirrored my own bewilderment. We can't keep this from you, Lyra. It's been haunting us all, she said, the anxiety bled into her voice. I can't do it alone anymore. You need to know, before it's too late. He's coming back soon, and he's not the only one. A chill raced down my spine. I glanced at my father, who stood rigid, a storm cloud brewing behind his eyes. It felt as if the ground had shifted beneath my feet. My world was shifting yet again, and the very foundations of what we knew to be true were in jeopardy. Mom, wait. I called into the phone, suddenly terrified of the implications, the secrets unraveling before me. What do you mean he's not the only one? Who else is coming back? The line filled with a suffocating silence before a soft sob broke through. I'm so sorry, Lyra. I can't say more right now. Just, prepare yourself. I love you. The call disconnected, leaving only the buzzing sound of emptiness in my ear. I lowered the phone, my lips parted in shock as the realities of her words crashed over me like a wave. What did she say? Lily asked, her voice barely a whisper. My heart felt as though it was fracturing further. There's more at stake with Dad than we realized. She hinted at family secrets, some kind of threat tied to us. I let the words tumble out, still trying to process their meaning. In the intensity of the moment, my father stepped forward, the defiance that had held him together slipping. His voice was hoarse, raw with emotion as he said, "That won't happen. They can't come for you, not again." The irony of his concern bit through the fog of confusion. "You're the one who created this chaos," I shot back. My voice wavering as the fear of the unknown wrapped tightly around my chest. "Perhaps it's time, then, for all the truths to be laid bare." His eyes glinted with a mixture of panic and determination. "But I'll protect you. I promise you that." A flicker of desperation mingled with sorrow as I watched my father teeter on the edge, a man unmade by the ghosts of his past, while the specter of those threats loomed larger than any of us could comprehend. And just when relief felt within reach, hope was shattered with the finality of a heartbeat. Distant sirens pierced the air, a gut-wrenching reminder that our fragile peace was anything but secure. Lyra. Lily's voice cracked, her gaze locked on the street beyond the crowd, as shadows twisted ominously among the trees lining the road. With a racing heart, I turned my attention to the road, knowing that whatever was about to happen was bound to change everything once again. Secrets too great to ignore were whispering through our lives, converging like storm clouds, and I realized that true chaos was just beginning. The sirens grew louder, their wailing echoing off the walls of my mind, mixing with the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me. I felt like a marionette, strings taut with tension, desperately trying to hold on to the fragile semblance of control as the world began to unspool around us. "What's going on?" I demanded, my voice cutting through the din. Fear intermingled with a burgeoning sensation of responsibility, and I sensed the weight of my family's secrets bearing down on me like the dark clouds gathering overhead. "That I don't know," Dad replied, his voice ragged, yet resolute. "But we can't stay here. We need to leave, now." His glance darted nervously toward the encroaching shadows as if they held the answers he so desperately sought to avoid. "Leave? Where? This is our home," Lily exclaimed, panic threading her words together. "We can't let them intimidate us like this." "Lily, listen." Dad took a step closer, lowering his voice as if to shield us from the fear creeping into our hearts. "There are forces that know about me. About the past I tried so hard to shield you from. If they're here, it means they're not giving up." "Not now." The weight of that statement hung over us, a chilling reminder that we were tangled in complexities far beyond our understanding. I could feel Lily's hand squeezing mine, her grip a reminder of our bond in the face of encroaching chaos. The grounding warmth of her touch offered a flicker of resilience. Before I could respond, a figure materialized from the shadows. It was a woman, tall and imposing, her eyes gleaming with an unsettling combination of familiarity and danger. I instinctively pulled Lily closer, my heartbeat syncing with the irregular rhythm of uncertainty. "Cassandra," my father murmured, his voice laced with an involuntary shudder. "What are you doing here?" The woman smirked, confidence radiating from her like a dark halo. "Oh, don't act so surprised, Thomas. You knew I'd come when the time was right. You've always underestimated the lengths I would go to protect our legacy." "Legacy? You think this is about a legacy?" My father's voice cracked like thunder, trembling with emotion that called forth shades of an angry young man I had never known. "You've always been more interested in power than family." Cassandra's laughter echoed back at him, sharp, cruel. "Family? Is that what you call this? A fractured mess built on lies?" She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing as she took in Lily and me. "You think you can shield them forever? This is just the beginning, Thomas. I'm here to reclaim what's yours, what was always meant to be." "What are you talking about?" I asked, confusion mixing with fear. "What do you want from us?" "Everything," she replied, her voice like silk over steel. "You two have a stake in a legacy you can't possibly fathom. There's a power within your veins, and it's time you learn how to wield it. The choice is simple, really: join us, or suffer the consequences." In an instant, my father stood protective before us, his demeanor shifting from defiance to a father fierce with determination. "Get away from my daughters. You have no claim over them. I'll protect them, even if it means." His voice faltered, realization dawning on him. The price of confrontation could be catastrophic. Cassandra laughed again, a sound devoid of warmth, and I felt dread grip my heart. "But you can't. You can't protect them from the truth, Thomas. I'll make sure they learn it one way or another. It would be a shame to see them hurt because of your refusal to accept who you really are." "Enough." My voice clashed with the tense air, but it fell weakly against the storm brewing around us. "What truth? Tell me. If we're part of something bigger, we deserve to know." Cassandra's expression shifted subtly, as if she relished the notion of our curiosity. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough, Lyra. Time runs short for all of us. Be ready." As she turned to leave, I felt my heart pounding in rhythm with an instinct that warned me it was not the last we would see of her, or the forces she represented. "Dad?" I whispered, casting a glance at the man I had always thought I understood. But the stormy gaze he returned mirrored the apprehension in my own heart. "There's so much I've hidden from you both," he admitted, the weight of his words nearly bringing him to his knees. "But Cassandra is right about one thing: we can't stay here. We need to find a safe place, one where I can tell you everything, where we can regroup, the oppressive air crackled around us as the echoes of distant sirens continued, a dissonant reminder that time was slipping through our fingers. Hope flickered dangerously fragile as a candle against a hurricane. Before we go, I pressed, wrestling with the urgency of unspoken fears coursing through me. What do we do if they come for us? What's the truth we'll uncover? He hesitated, the uncertainty looming heavy between us. You must trust me, but know this, Lyra, it may not be the truth we want to hear. We'll face it together. But I could feel its silence coiling around us like a venomous serpent, indicative of the uncertainty ahead. As we moved to leave, my gaze lingered on the darkness swirling at the edges of reality, a chilling realization setting in. We were just stepping into a far greater darkness. With every step forward, the shadows grew a little longer, the sirens a little louder, and the ties that bound us to this impending fate tightened their grip. There was no turning back, yet what awaited us in the coming days felt even more terrifying than the unknown itself. Are you ready, Lyra? My father asked, his eyes searching mine for the conviction I wished I felt. And just like that, as we prepared to step through the door into the uncertain night, a single thought crossed my mind: the whispers of our past were only just beginning to rise, and knowing the truth might be a curse we had never seen coming. The streetlights flickered like candles in a gathering storm as we darted through the alley behind our house, my heart pounding to the rhythm of the sirens in the distance. Each footstep felt heavy as if the ground itself was warning me of the path we were treading. The familiar thorny hedge that once brought comfort now felt like a prison, every branch and leaf cloaked in the shadows of our impending confrontation. Where are we going? I asked, my breath hitching with every hurried step. While Dad moved ahead with purpose, I felt the conviction dripping from him like the rain clouds above me. To the old cabin, he explained, glancing back over his shoulder, his expression a weary mix of determination and despair. It was a safe haven in the past. Well, regroup there and he'll tell you everything. Everything? Lily echoed beside me, her voice shaky but insistent. What do you mean? About Cassandra? About our family? About everything, he confirmed, the weight of unspoken truths thick in the air. In the disorienting darkness, an ember of hope glimmered. Perhaps familiarity, a place steeped in memories, laughter, and the echoes of our childhood would provide the comfort I desperately sought. I recalled summer afternoons spent chasing fireflies, the rough embrace of wood walls catching our whispers and laughter. But that safety felt far away now, consumed by the darkness that remembered our transient joys with a grim hunger. As we turned the final corner, the cabin loomed ahead like a looming reminder of the simplicity we had taken for granted. A shabby honor, perhaps, but it was ours, and it held 100 tiny threads of light amid the darkness. Dad led us inside, flicking on a weak flashlight that sent shadows dancing across the walls, breathing life into long-forgotten corners. Stay close, he urged as we settled into a huddle, the stale air thick with tension. The world outside felt suspended, as if even the night itself was holding its breath, waiting for the truth to break free. Why was Cassandra here? I finally asked, the question clawing at the back of my mind. What do you have that she wants? His eyes hardened at the name. It's complicated, Lyra. Our family's legacy goes back generations. It's intertwined with power, choices we made or didn't make. It's not just about money or status, it's about responsibility, the kind that weighs heavy on your shoulders. That I don't care about that. I erupted, pain and frustration bubbling to the surface. Why are we stuck in the middle of her game? Can't we just live our lives? Why do we have to? Because it's not just you and Lily, he interrupted, and a flicker of sorrow crossed his features. Cassandra wants to drag you both into this tangled web of lies and power for her gain. Then we'll fight back, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my core. We can be stronger than her. But at what cost? He asked, the weariness in his voice echoing around the cabin like a dark cloud. You don't know the danger she brings with her. This isn't a battle you can win with stubbornness alone. Waves of silence crashed over us, leaving an unsettling unease behind, and suddenly I was 16 again, a girl caught between a world of childish wonder and the heavy chains of adult responsibilities looming on the horizon. A piece of my heart still yearned for those simpler days, and the shadows in our lives felt like an affront to all that was once pure. "Lyra," Dad said gently, breaking the silence, "there's more you should know. In order for you to protect yourselves properly, you need to understand." As he began to explain, I caught sight of Lily's eyes, wide and reflecting the growing flickers of uncertainty. A sudden sense of protectiveness surged through Mesh. Was fragile, and the looming truth could shatter everything we knew. Just as the first light of dawn began to push against the night, a heavy knocking echoed through the peaceful cocoon of the cabin, shattering the illusion of safety we'd sought. My heart dropped, and the reality of our situation hit me like cold water. Someone was at the door, and it was not the welcoming respite I had hoped for. "Who is it?" I asked breathlessly, a part of me terrified that I already knew the answer. "My guess would be Cassandra," Dad replied grimly, his voice laced with dread. A rush of pounding disbelief flooded my veins. Surely she wouldn't come here, knowing we'd fled? My mind raced. The night had been filled with shadows and secrets, but this was an uninvited chaos, and it threatened to consume us whole. The knocking intensified, a steady rhythm that echoed like a war drum through the walls of the cabin. "Stay behind me," Dad instructed, the protective instinct flaring in his eyes. That I felt the adrenaline coursing through me as I stepped in front of Lily, the barrier between her and the encroaching threat. But as the door creaked ominously under the pressure of relentless knocks, a sliver of hope pushed through the fear. Somehow, we would get through this. And then, just when I thought the weight of the night was too heavy to bear, the door burst open to reveal a figure cloaked in shadows, a figure I never expected to see. My breath caught as realization washed over me like ice. It was my mother, a woman thought long lost to the void of secrets and heartbreak, standing at the threshold of our reckoning. "Lyra," she whispered, her eyes wild and pleading. "We don't have much time." As she stepped into the room, the air shifted, laden with the promise of truths, unveiled truths that could change everything or destroy us completely. The silence that followed her arrival felt palpable, a fragile veil separating the known from the unknown. My heart raced, a chaotic symphony of emotions clamoring for dominance. Relief and confusion warred within me like stormy seas crashing against a desolate shore. "Mom?" The word slipped from my lips, laced in disbelief. I searched her face for the answers I yearned for, catching fleeting glimpses of the woman I used to know, the warmth of her smile, the gentleness of her touch. But those memories felt distant now, obscured beneath shadows of time and pain. She pushed back a strand of hair, eyes darting between Dad and the both of us. "They're coming," she said, urgency punctuating her words. I came as fast as I could. "We need to leave. It's not safe here." "Who's coming?" I asked, confusion knitting my brow. The urgency swirling around her was like an invisible force, and it pulled at me, demanding attention. "Cassandra's allies, people who will do anything to find you," she replied, her voice trembling. "She's been looking for you. All of you. Since the beginning." I in the clutch of fear that gripped my chest, I glanced at Dad, trying to read his expression. But his face was locked in a storm of emotions, memories colliding with heartbreaking realizations. "No, you shouldn't have come here," he whispered hoarsely, regret lacing every tone. "Too late for that now," she shot back, her voice firm yet fragile. "I didn't have a choice. I needed to protect you." What could have been a moment of papery warmth in our fractured family now felt like a tinderbox, igniting the fragile air with old resentments. The years of her absence echoed in the space between us, heavy with neglected conversations and unresolved conflicts. "Protect us?" I echoed bitterly, the words tasting full of the bitterness I had buried for years. "You left us. You chose to disappear, and now you hear that we're in danger and think just showing up will fix everything." "Lyra, please," Dad interjected, stepping closer to my mother. "This isn't the time for no." I cut him off. "No more hiding behind the walls of our past. She has to explain. You both owe us that." My voice cracked, each word digging deeper into the tangled roots of my anger and hurt. Clenching my fists, I took a step back, grappling between wanting to bridge the gap or push them both away. But just as I was ready to spiral into the darkness of lingering resentments, a sudden noise interrupted our tumultuous circle. A rustling outside, the unmistakable sound of footsteps crunching on the brittle underbrush. "They're here," my mother said, fear tinging her voice, but also a determination that urged me to listen, to feel. "We need to go." "Now, where?" I asked, glancing back and forth between my parents, questioning what it meant to run again, to flee from shadows we couldn't outrun. "Do you trust me?" she asked, her gaze steady yet trembling under the weight of unspoken histories. And for a moment, as the world around us trembled with impending danger, a thread of past love reached out, weaving through the thick despair. But trust was a fragile construct built on memories that had gathered dust. Could I lay bare the remnants of my childhood directly in her hands, Mom Lyra? "We don't have time," Dad said, urgency lacing his tone, cutting through the impending emotional storm. Finally, instinct and the unmistakable presence of danger commanded my legs, igniting a flicker of hope for the first time since all of this began. "Fine," I said, trembling, facing the chaos that was unspooling. "But you need to tell us everything." "No more secrets that we will," she promised, aligning her gaze with mine, her eyes filled with an earnestness I had almost forgotten. "We just need a chance to get safe." I in the chorus of pushing shadows, I nodded, uncertainty flickering behind my ribs as I moved towards the door, the night still buzzing with secrets unspoken. As we slipped outside, I felt the rush of cold air mixed with electric fear, the haunting pulse of dread beneath every step. This was an exodus from the familiar into realms unknown. Yet there, amidst the chaos of the night, and the darkness each of us bore, I felt Lily grip my hand tightly, her warm, tiny fingers clenching against the fear that threatened to envelop us all. "Mama?" she whispered, her voice steady against the tempest. "Are we going to be okay?" As I opened my mouth to respond, fear coiled in my throat at the enormity of what lay ahead. How could I assure her when everything felt so precarious? Just then, an eerie howl echoed through the night, chilling my spine, resonating through the trees that overshadowed our escape. And just like that, a breath of reality swept through our fragile unity, a sharp reminder that our journey had only just begun, and the shadows were gathering, waiting to consume our every step. The haunting fear settled firmly on my shoulders, and as we hurried through the darkness, the undeniable bond of family thrummed in the air, even as our secrets lurked just out of reach, threatening to tear us apart once again with the weight of truths both bittersweet and devastating. The forest enveloped us like a shroud, each step laden with uncertainty. Moonlight filtered through the branches above, illuminating the path ahead sporadically, as if the universe itself was wary of the truth we were about to uncover. I could feel my heart thumping against my chest, each beat resonating with a primal fear that seemed to align with the whispers of the trees around us. "Keep moving," Mom urged, her voice steadying us. Yet, it felt as though each word fell like a stone into an ocean of questions between us. She walked ahead, almost protecting us from whatever memories haunted our steps, while Dad fell in stride behind, his presence both reassuring and infuriating. Why was he so silent? Did he not realize we needed him to speak as much as her? Lily, clutching my hand tighter, looked up at me with trusting eyes that held an innocence I longed to preserve. "Are you sure about this, Lyra?" she asked softly, her voice a fragile thread tugging at my heart. How could I bear to shatter her belief that everything would be okay? With a deep breath, I summoned a smile, trying to mask my tumult. "Of course. Well, find a safe place. You'll see." The words felt empty, almost like a promise I was terrified I couldn't keep. My heart ached for her. How much she deserved a reality where she didn't have to feel the dangers lurking in the dark. The forest thickened, branches snagging at our clothes as if trying to hold us back, to pull us into the depths of despair. Then came the sound again, the soft, steady rustling of leaves followed by heavier, deliberate footsteps that echoed ominously from behind. My heart leaped into my throat, fear curling around every thought I dared to entertain. "Mom," I whispered, urgency spilling into my voice as I quickened my pace. "We really need to know. Who are these people? What do they want from us?" Her expression hardened momentarily, as the shadows passed swiftly over her face. "They want Yus because of Cassandra. She believes we hold the answers she seeks." "What answers?" I shot back. My own resentment bubbled over. unable to remain dormant. What could possibly justify dragging us back into this mess? We're not dragging you back, please understand, she said, pausing to look directly into my eyes. Cassandra has powers. That powers? I interrupted, incredulity flooding my voice. Like the kind of powers that could destroy people? You think I'm going to just accept this without question? Without knowing how deep your secrets go, but before she could respond, a rush of cold wind surged through the trees, and I noticed a figure emerging in the moonlight, tall and foreboding. My stomach dropped as the heaviness of that moment settled in, more shadows creeping in around our fragile bond. Run! Dad shouted unexpectedly, his calm demeanor shattered like glass. The forest transformed into chaos. Even Mom looked momentarily paralyzed as we watched the figure step closer, illuminated in the pallid light. It was a man, his face obscured by the shadows cast from the foliage. Yet I felt a chill run through me, a familiarity in his stance. That's enough, his gravelly voice pierced the air, leaving a lingering echo. You can't hide from her forever. Before my mind could process, I tugged Lily along, bolting deeper into the trees, adrenaline fueling our desperate flight. Every rustle behind us felt like a close reminder of danger, and my heart raced, urging me to outrun whatever specter of our past had emerged, but soon, the world around us narrowed into an unbearable silence. I could hear my own breathing, hurried and ragged, while Lily stumbled behind me, her little legs struggling. I halted, pulling her to a stop. We need to regroup, I panted, glancing back at the thickening shadows. My heart sank at how the fear in her eyes mirrored my own. Lyra, wait. Mom called, breathless as she caught up. We can't stop here. They'll find us. What do we do? I asked, panic cracking my voice. I felt, for the first time, a deep-rooted sense of helplessness. Then Dad, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, stepped beside Mom, his presence a grounding force. We fight back. We don't let them take our family again, he declared, the remembrance of his lost bravery igniting a flicker of defiance in my heart. For the first time, it felt as if the weight of our fractured past held the potential for strength. But before I could contemplate how to navigate this newfound sense of unity, the ominous figure materialized again from the shadows behind us, glancing at my parents with recognition. Momentarily frozen by the realization of who he truly was, I could barely manage a whisper as the fog of fear intertwined with an undeniable truth. There was no way out without confronting the storm that we had run from for so long. Lyra, he said, his voice taut with unrelenting tension. We need to talk about your mother. And in that moment, the burgeoning hope I'd felt flickered uncertainly, overshadowed by the inescapable collision with the past we all feared. The stillness in the air around us felt thick and suffocating, yet the whispers of my own heartbeat drowned out the crunch of leaves beneath my feet. As the figure stepped closer, his face slowly emerged from the dark, revealing a piercing gaze that seemed to unveil hidden corners of my soul. It was Roger, my father's long-lost brother, a ghost of a time I believed to be buried deep beneath years of silence. Uncle Roger? The name slipped out as a shaky confession, both a question and an accusation wrapped in disbelief. The memories were murky, tinged with warmth but stained by filters of abandonment. Mom's harsh grip tightened on my shoulder, her attempt to pull me away, to shield me from the truth she'd hidden all these years. I know it's been a long time, he said, the gravel in his voice echoing like thunder above the ongoing rustling of foliage. But we need to put all of that behind us. Your mother has made choices that affect us all. How can you expect us to trust you? I burst out, the sting of betrayal twining through my veins. You left. My voice rose despite the fear gnawing at my insides. You didn't even look back. Don't let him manipulate you, Mom interjected sharply, standing tall yet somehow vulnerable. We don't need his lies. Not now, but Roger's expression softened, revealing a glimpse of a man who had faced his own demons. I come only to protect you, the entire family. Cassandra's after something far more sinister than she's led you to believe. What do you know about Cassandra? My father, who had remained uncharacteristically quiet until that moment, stepped forward, his authority suddenly reclaiming the moment. Roger glanced at the trees, likely assessing the encroaching shadows. We're running out of time. He lowered his voice as if the night itself were a sentient entity capable of eavesdropping. Cassandra believes your powers are the key to her resurrection. Powers? You keep saying that word like it's supposed to mean something to us. I shouted, the frustration spilling over. What powers are you talking about? What's going on here? I was there, Roger said, eyes locked on mine, as if searching for any flicker of understanding. The night she was banished. I saw her transform, I felt her rage, it was monstrous. Your mother was the only one strong enough to stand against her. The revelation unfurled inside me, a tempest swirling between betrayal and betrayal's victim. How could you let this happen? I accused my mother, the heart of my disbelief pounding like a war drum. You knew and still brought us here. He had to be kept away from all this. Mom shouted, her voice filled with anguish. You don't understand was always a danger to us, and suddenly, the weight of my own naivety crashed over me like a wave. A danger? I breathed, piecing together fragments of a story I was only beginning to understand. We're the danger, Lyra, Dad implored, his voice rough and worn. Let's not know. I interrupted, shaking. We deserve to know what's happening. If we're in danger, I want the truth. In the tense silence that followed, it felt as though the world held its breath. Roger's weathered face crumbled slightly, revealing lines of pain I had never seen before. You're not just a family, you're a lineage. A lineage that gives rise to power. And Cassandra wants it. She's been waiting, for you. Before I could fully digest the implications of his words, a sudden rustling erupted to our left, branches snapping under the weight of a new presence. Shadows shifted ominously, drawing closer, and I felt panic claw at my throat. We can't stay here, I whispered, urgency flooding my senses. Listen, you can't trust Roger began, but I saw a glint of danger in his eyes, the hesitance to share more than he knew. Mom turned to me, fear dancing behind her normally resolute facade. We need to run, well figure this out somewhere safe. But the shadows were no longer merely whispers, they manifested into forms that stalked us, menacing and resolute. Fear coiled tighter around us like a snake preparing to strike. Run! Dad shouted again, but this time words started to swarm around. USA cacophony of secrets both past and present, impossible to ignore. As we raced through the forest, adrenaline surged in my veins, yet a painful doubt crept into my mind. What if chasing the truth led us into an even darker abyss? My heart twisted in knots, fighting an internal battle against the anticipated heartbreak of revelation. But just before I could make sense of the chaos, my foot snagged on a root, sending me sprawling to the ground, heart racing, scraping my palms against the rough earth. Lyra. Lily's voice cut through the swirling crisis, her small hands reaching for me, and when I looked up, there he was again, the ominous figure melting from the darkness. Only this time, he was not alone. Shadows thickened around him, revealing a small army of faces caught in the moonlight, eyes glinting like daggers, sending my heart plummeting into the depths of fear I hadn't known were possible. Family reunions can be so joyous, can't they? Cassandra's voice drifted through the darkness, chilling, mocking, and ever more powerful. As terror built a wall around my heart, I realized with every breath that we had awakened something far beyond our understanding. The night was only beginning, and the truth that lay on the horizon was a tempest I could never have anticipated. The eerie laughter cut through the thick air, and as shadows crept closer, I felt my heart race with a mix of dread and resolve. Cassandra stood before us like a specter of our past, a woman who carried the burden of secrets that threatened to unravel our lives once more. The restless fury of the night seemed to take a breath, waiting for the inevitable clash between our fears and the truths that had long been buried. That we remained frozen, a tableau of confusion and desperation, yet in that moment, I could feel an undercurrent of something else, intertwined threads of past wounds and potential healing. "We're not afraid of you, Cassandra," I challenged, my voice quaking yet steady. "We will not let you take what isn't yours." "You think this is a game, Lyra?" she retorted, eyes narrowing as she stepped forward, shadows swirling at her feet like dark flames. This is far more than a game, it's about legacy, about power. And you, she pointed sharply, you are at the center of it all. Stop. My father shouted, stepping in front of us like a shield, his anger igniting the flicker of courage within me. You have no claim over us. We've fought to keep our family together despite your machinations, and we'll fight again if we must. Cassandra's disdainful laughter echoed around us, but it was Roger who stepped forward now, a glimmer of humility softening his hardened features. Cassandra, you don't have to do this. We can find another way to settle this. You don't have to put them in danger. Oh, dear brother. Her voice oozed with insincerity, an unsettling sweetness that belied the malice visible in her eyes. You of all people should know there's no turning back from this. The truth you all avoided is here, and it will claim what it's owed. My heart pounded in my chest, every beat a reminder of the fragile line we walked. What truth? I pressed, desperation creeping in. What do you want from us? She paused dramatically, considering before unleashing her words like a curse. You are descended from a lineage of power. The blood of ancient forces flows through your veins, Lyra. You and your sister together, you hold the key to awakening something great, something dark. And that power has been dormant long enough. Every fiber of my being urged me to retreat, to hide, but I couldn't show Fonet now, not when the shadows threatened to envelop us entirely. That might be true, but we will choose how our legacy unfurls. You won't decide that for us, Cassandra. Brave words for someone so naive. She stepped closer, the crowd of figures behind her shifting ominously. But those who counsel with such defiance often pay the highest price. Would you like to see what I can summon with that blood you deny? Her voice dripped with honeyed poison. With an imperceptible sign, shadows coalesced into shapes, dark figures with glinting eyes, emerging from the depths of the forest, a malevolent army prepared to unleash total chaos. Panic surged within, but Dad's presence fortifying me. Stand strong, my daughters. He urged, his voice rising above the fear. We will not falter. We stand together in this. My mother stepped beside him, her voice quivering but resolute. Together, we can face whatever darkness comes. Together we are stronger. I felt the tension in my veins begin to knit together, our shared strength, binding us like an unbreakable fabric woven from resilience. No one dictates our fate, I exclaimed, glancing at Lily, who took my hand firmly, trusting me to navigate this storm. As the figures advanced, a bright, blinding light erupted from within me, ignited by the courage I didn't realize I possessed. It flowed into the night air, illuminating the shadows like fragile glass shattering under the weight of truth. We will face the darkness together, Cassandra, not as unwitting pawn nor prey, but as a family united. The shadows paused, shimmered, and as the light enveloped us, I could see the shapes of figures blink in uncertainty. Even Cassandra faltered behind a facade of power, revealing a tremor of fear beneath her composed layers. The air thrummed with tension, a momentary truce dictated by a force neither of us could control, bound by blood, by legacy, yet shaped by choice. But before I could fully revel in the brave moment, a thunderous roar erupted from the tree-line. Figures of darkness recoiled, a predator unnerved by the light. Something stirred, awakened by power and promise, something larger than any of us. Stand firm. Roger yelled, a fierce plea that reminded me of the ancient power we possess. A power not just to combat, but to embrace. We can channel this. We fight through light, not fear. As the roaring grew, darkness began to shift, revealing monstrous beings entwined with shadows. Creatures of whispers turned tangible, their intentions maleficent, yet they were drawn to the light in a dance of chaos. They approached, driven by past grievances and honorable bloodlines tangled in betrayal. Lyra. My mother shouted, face torn with urgency. Your strength is the beacon, your light exposes their truth. Use it. But the shadows lunged toward me, toward Yuzand. Within that instant, I knew. I could no longer run from the storm that had marked our family, from the whispers that had chased us all our lives. Be with me. I shouted, thrusting my hands forward, rallying every ounce of will, every heartbeat pulsing in unison with those I loved. Together we will bring them to light. Together we will illuminate our past to forge our future. As the storm surged and roared, we felt it then, the merging of past pains, luminous threads wrapping around our hands, our hearts, intertwining as a family, as one. For in facing her and the darkness that had ensnared us for far too long, I finally understood, it was not power that defined us but the strength within our choice to love amidst chaos. The shadows faltered, growled, and the storm of emotions crescendoed around user resolve. Hardening like steel but softened by compassion. We would rewrite our story together, and as the clash burgeoned into a battle between worlds, I grasped tightly to my sister's hand with unwavering conviction. Shadows can only exist where light is absent, and we were the light within the dark. In the throes of chaos, amidst uncertainty, wisdom coursed through me, love could unveil truth and heal the fractures in our souls, and together, we would rise, when the storm finally settled, leaving remnants of shadow and light intertwined beneath the weight of our bond. I breathed out the final flicker of fear and whispered against the new dawn a gentle promise of survival: we are home. Always. In that moment, as the sun broke the horizon, illuminating the world anew, the echo of our laughter grew louder, inviting every forgotten joy back into our lives.